What's there to say about SpongeBob that hasn't already been said? It's a Nickelodeon classic created by the great Steven Hillenburg. It's not only one of the best Nickelodeon cartoons, but quite possibly one of the best cartoons ever. It's more than a cartoon, it's a cultural phenomenon. Everyone and their mom quotes this show.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
Imagination.
I was obsessed with SpongeBob as a kid. I had the first 3 seasons on DVD, I wore SpongeBob PJs, and I had several licensed video games. I played these things religiously, most notably these two, Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game. They are both developed by the company Heavy Iron Studios and published by THQ. As a kid, these games were godlike. They captured the feel and the show of the movie so accurately, and the gameplay was a blast. It always impressed me how they were able to take a new alarm goofball, or in this case, goofy goober like SpongeBob, and develop strong game mechanics. Honestly, he's a character that shouldn't work for gaming, at least for anything involving combat. SpongeBob beating anyone up is asinine, and one of the show's funniest episodes was based on that idea. While Operation Krabby Patty and Employee of the Month were well-received point-and-click adventures, the first attempt to make a 3D SpongeBob platformer was awkward. In 2002, we had Revenge of the Flying Dutchman developed by Big Sky Interactive. It felt like the world and SpongeBob himself weren't fully realized. There are so many odd design choices, and the process of having to switch outfits for new abilities was tedious. Thankfully, Heavy Iron must have seen the fallout from the bomb dropped by Big Sky, because they stepped in with an entry that was about to change everything we knew about SpongeBob games. What's there to say about SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom that hasn't already been said? Okay, scratch that. I need to think of a different way to introduce the subject. Although, how can I? Just like the show, the game is cherished.
Yes! Oh my god! How do they make this more and more epic every time?
It's been acknowledged by many as one of the greatest licensed games of all time, and there's a lot of gamers that will tell you that this is even one of their favorite games ever. It's so beloved that in 2020 we got a beautiful remaster. That's crazy when you consider that this was a kids game released in 2004. A kids game released in a sea of other kids games. The following for Battle is just that strong, and it's easy to see why. From the get-go, the representation is amazing. The show's charm and wit is flawlessly translated. It feels just like you're watching an episode of the show. Like the cartoon, the exchanges between characters is comedic gold.
Hey, you barnacle head! Watch where you're going!
The rock is talking to me. Oh, mighty rock, I am at your command.
Down here, you big pink lummox!
Oh, hi there, Mr. Plankton. Are you going to vaporize me today?
So very tempting. Unfortunately, I found myself in the undesirable position of having to assist you.
I was in an undesirable position yesterday, and now my neck hurts.
And there's so many references to episodes crammed throughout the game. It goes beyond the writing though. The game looks and sounds like SpongeBob. There's not a single element here that feels out of place. Everything you come across feels like something SpongeBob would actually interact with. And the locations? No longer did we have to wander around a beach made out of vomit. We were actually at the Goo Lagoon. The amount of care that went into making the gamer feel like they were in the show has to be commended. It's clear that Battle for Bikini Bottom was made by fans of the show. Even the story feels like a plot for an episode you would see. One day Plankton attempts to steal the secret Krabby Patty formula by creating a robot army. However, he accidentally sets the duplication machine to don't obey, so things go haywire. As this is going on, SpongeBob and Patrick are playing robots and racehorses, and they decide that they want to play with real robots, so they make a wish using the magic conch shell.
All hail the magic conch!
All hail the magic conch!
The next day, SpongeBob wakes up to his house in an absolute wreck, and discovers that robots have taken over Bikini Bottom. So together, Patrick, Sandy, and SpongeBob progress through many iconic locations for the show, regaining control of their home. Okay, so we could have stopped and left it at the representation being amazing. However, Heavy Iron didn't just capture the show's charm, they also made a solid game that crafted the outline for future SpongeBob 3D platformers. Instead of having to get all your abilities from tents scattered around the level, SpongeBob had a designated moveset with certain moves being unlocked as you progress through the game, and these moves actually made sense for the character. SpongeBob loves blowing bubbles in the show, so it's fitting that his moves would be based around that. Similar to Fairy Oddparents' Shadow Showdown, levels were designed around the game's mechanics. There's many switches based around SpongeBob's moveset, smashable tikis, and even certain robots that have to be destroyed using specific moves. The choice to include Patrick and Sandy as playable characters was also great. Patrick's gameplay was more focused on strength as he was able to lift and throw things, and Sandy's gameplay lets you utilize her lasso, allowing you to attack enemies from a distance, as well as get some air. It was clear that this game was inspired by Super Mario 64. Similar to a star system, each level has golden spatulas that the player needs to collect in order to progress in the game. For the most part, you'll find these randomly placed throughout the world, but there's also many times you'll be expected to complete tasks for them. Along with the spatulas, you'll collect shiny objects that you can use at these clam gates, which kinda act like money bags from Spyro, requiring you to spin an amount in order to unlock a certain path. Patrick also has lost socks that you can find. Every 10 that you return allows you to get a golden spatula. Without a doubt, the hunt for these collectibles is an interesting and engaging time. The game's soundtrack is stellar. This is another aspect that the game nails. All of it sounds like what you would hear in the show. Battle is just chock full of mini earworms. Some of my favorites being Jellyfish Fields, the Murmelair, and the Kelp Forest. Battle for Bikini Bottom is an incredibly nostalgic experience that is very faithful to its source material. It's also easily the most important and influential SpongeBob game to ever come out. Like I mentioned, it set the formula for many SpongeBob 3D platformers going forward, and it's impressive just how much its fan base has kept it alive. Now that we've talked a bit about Battle, let's go into the other. SpongeBob banger Heavy Iron would go on to develop. In the 2000s, it seemed like it was almost a given that every movie had to have a video game made along with it. These games are often negatively received, for many are rushed and tend to be unnecessary. Like, I think the most ridiculous example I've seen is the Curious George movie game. Even as a kid, I thought this was a bizarre choice, and oddly enough, I actually had this one as a kid, and enjoyed it!
What? 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 What?
While there was a lot of odd decisions, one that I can say that made total sense and was an absolute blast was the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game. The game and the movie were both released in 2004, a year after Battle for Bikini Bottom. With Battle being such a solid platformer, it made perfect sense that Heavy Iron would be brought back to develop the movie game. With that, there's a lot of familiar aspects, and what many enjoyed about the previous title could be found in this one. The Super Mario 64 inspired formula of finding a set amount of collectibles in each stage was back, this time in the form of Goofy Goober tokens. SpongeBob and Patrick play very much the same, with many abilities being reused this time with a different appearance. Sandy isn't playable this time around, which kinda sucks, but it makes sense since she wasn't really involved in the movie. The game tries to make up for this exclusion, however, by adding an upgrade system to SpongeBob and Patrick. Instead of shiny objects, you collect macho points, which look like weights. The upgrade system is really a neat inclusion. It provides more of an incentive to try and smash objects, which instead of tikis, we have more traditional objects like crates and explosive barrels. A major difference between this and Battle is the linearity. It's much more straightforward. There's no hub world this time around, so you're just bouncing directly from level to level. This choice is something that might throw a lot of people off, but in my opinion it wasn't a big deal, and I think it gives the game a nice flow. The game follows the plot of the movie closely, which if you haven't seen, what the hell are you doing? Pause the video and watch it, you madman. It goes like this. SpongeBob wants to be the manager of the Krusty Krab 2, but Mr. Krabs rewards it to Squidward instead, and says that SpongeBob is just a kid. Meanwhile, Plankton is plotting to steal the secret Krabby Patty formula with a plan that he's never tried before, Plan Z. What does this entail? Plankton steals King Neptune's crown and frames Mr. Krabs, leaving a note stating that his crown has been sold to someone in Shell City. The next day, King Neptune freezes Mr. Krabs, and SpongeBob and Patrick are given the task of having to retrieve the crown in 6 days. I'll leave it at that. Epic movie from my childhood and a solid conclusion to the series. Even if the show is still going on today, it doesn't detract from how well this movie ties everything together. No matter how many movies they make, this to me is the true ending. Just like the show, the movie is iconic. The number of times I've called people goofy goobers or sang along to Ocean Man is incredible. Like Battle for Bikini Bottom does with representing the show, the movie game does a great job at representing the movie. Just about every location you see in the film is a level in the game. No place was left behind. This is a neat feature to see because in the film we don't really spend a lot of time in certain areas. Planktopolis is a great example. It was awesome having a level dedicated to exploring this dystopia Plankton crid. Another notable feature is the inclusion of the Patty Wagon. These levels are a lot of fun. There's a heaviness to a wagon that adds a bit of challenge when it comes to steering. Along with the Patty Wagon levels, the slide segments are brought back, this time on a larger scale. I love these moments. My favorite level in battle was the Sand Mounds, since there was a greater focus on these slides, so having levels solely based around them was right up my alley. The soundtrack in the movie game also slaps. You've got a lot of rock-based tracks like what you'll find when playing the bubble-blowing Baby Hunt level, and on the flip side you also get these kind of jazzy tracks like what's in the No Cheese level and the SpongeBob segments. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie game is a great time. Heavy Iron took a lot of what made Battle special and further expanded on the formula. The movie game doesn't have the same level of following that Battle for Bikini Bottom does, but don't let that discourage you from playing the game. This one is also regarded as one of the best SpongeBob platformers. Though it's an unpopular opinion, some may argue that this is actually the superior game. With that in mind, what's my opinion? What title do I like more? Let me get this straight. You think the movie game is better than Battle for Bikini Bottom? I do, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. If you were to ask me as a kid what my favorite out of these two was, I'd probably tell you Battle. I played this one non-stop and it was exactly what I wanted from a SpongeBob game. I loved how much it made you feel like you were playing an episode of the show. However, as an adult, my opinion has changed. I actually prefer the movie game. What? How could this be, you may ask? It all comes down to one word: challenge. One thing you'll see a lot of YouTubers talk about when reviewing the game is how difficult it can be. In contrast, when it comes to Battle for Bikini Bottom, I don't hear people talk enough about the lack of difficulty. Yeah, while the game gives the player the freedom to choose the order in which they play levels, one could argue that maybe there's too much freedom. There's 100 spatulas in the game, and you only need 75 to actually make it to the final boss, so you could skip entire parts of the game if you want to. This can be nice if you want a more cozy, laid-back gaming experience. However, it could also give you less of an incentive to try to return to areas. If I'm not trying to 100% this game, Why would I go back and play Kelp Forest, trying to hunt for spatulas in Advanced Darkness?
This isn't your average everyday darkness. This is advanced darkness.
The movie game is the equivalent of a parent who tells you can't leave the table until you finish your food. It stops you at many moments throughout the game and requires you to backtrack to previous levels, completing extra challenges for tokens. A lot of people don't enjoy this aspect of the game, and I can understand why. I just busted my ass trying to chase a giant peanut, and you mean to tell me I have to go back and do it again, but this time with rings? Screw this game! It can be tedious, however, I think it also adds some difficulty that was missing in Battle for Bikini Bottom. Another thing is that it allows me to appreciate the levels more. If this was my first and only playthrough of Battle, and I got to skip an entire level, I may have missed out on something really cool that the devs put together. Part of what makes the movie game challenging is also the inclusion of these side stages and levels. Your first one out of the 3 is a challenge where you have to beat up a certain number of enemies to pass. There's 3 rounds and all the enemies come from spawners in the distance. It's very much reminiscent of Mr. Krabs' Dream. I've seen a lot of gamers refer to that moment as one of the most challenging in Battle. The second is the SpongeBob challenge, which is my favorite. It takes SpongeBob in his ball form and creates an obstacle course for you to navigate. The third is simply a platforming challenge where you have to jump across blocks to reach a designated point before the time runs out. I've really enjoyed playing through these segments and found them to be a really cool way to utilize the game's mechanics. Okay, so me pointing out my enjoyment of the movie game's challenge is not to take away from all the things that Battle for Bikini Bottom does right, and amazingly. The movie game wouldn't play the way it does if it weren't for Battle laying the groundwork, and when it comes to the representation of the show, I have to admit that Battle does it better. You really do feel like you're playing an episode of the show, and I can understand the enjoyment that comes along with seeing iconic locations and jokes from the show translated in a video game. I think the reason I have more enjoyment of the movie game was because I played Battle for Bikini Bottom countless times as a kid, and now I always know what to expect. For me, it's like that one episode where Squidward goes to the community of other squid people. At first it's new, fresh, and nearly a perfect experience, but as I keep playing the game over and over again, I just know what to expect and it doesn't interest me as much. It's not to say that I don't still enjoy revisiting Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it just doesn't hit the same as when I played it as a kid, unfortunately. When I was younger, I could never beat the movie game, therefore I had less of an interest in playing it. Today, some of my favorite games of all time are known for their difficulty and challenge. That doesn't mean that the movie game is the Elden Ring of children's games. It's just that it has a little bit more challenge to it than Battle, and for that reason it's right up my alley. Both games are amazing and satisfy gamers in different ways. If you want a more cozy and nostalgic experience, I would say that Battle for Bikini Bottom would be the one that you would probably prefer. However, if you like the battle formula but wanted more of a challenge, then I would say that the movie game is the way to go. So in the end, it just matters what you're looking for in a SpongeBob game. Both are solid entries from Heavy Iron Studios that I'm glad that I got to experience as a kid.